Here, I think we're ready to go.
Very good. Thank you, Desiree. Welcome. This is the Ways and Means 5:15, Tuesday, November 17th meeting. There's good reason for starting at 5:15, but we'll see if it works out. It's a virtual meeting due to COVID. We will call this meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Nicole, you want to do a roll call just to confirm a quorum, please?
Absolutely. Councilmember Bell,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Here.
Councilmember Streetman,
Here.
Councilmember Popson,
Here.
Councilmember Moy,
Here.
Councilmember Smith, Mayor Carroll,
Here.
Chair Pounds.
Here.
You have a quorum?
Very good. Thank you, Nicole. No citizens' comments for this meeting. Our next item is approval of previous meeting minutes, our regular meeting from October 20th of 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Motion to approve.
John?
Second.
Second, thank you. Any edits, comments, changes? No. Nicole, you want to do a quick roll call, please?
Absolutely. Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Here. Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan, Mayor Carroll,
Yeah.
Chair Pounds.
Aye.
All in favor?
Thank you. Next item is financial statements, and you've got that in your packet. Debbie, would you like to walk us through some of those, please, ma'am?
Sure. We're already 1/3 of the way through the city's fiscal year, believe it or not. Total city revenues. Ron, can we get the pages up?
There you go, Debbie.
Yeah, great. Okay, so total city revenues are about 4.3 million. This is compared to last year where we had 4.846 million. So the $500,000 decline from last year is almost entirely due to the negative impacts of COVID-19 on the city's tourism revenues. Total expenditures for the city are a little over 6 million compared to a little over 4 million this time last year. That $2 million swing is primarily due to 1.6 million worth of spending on the public safety building repair so far this fiscal year, as well as 600,000, which we paid for the refurbishment of the 95-foot ladder truck. So that happened since July 1. So we're spending more than we're bringing in, but we were expecting to do that. So it's in line with the budget. On the general fund side, you can see that total revenues, general fund only, are a little over 2.3 million. That's 22% of the budget and slightly ahead, 8% ahead of where we were this time last year. Building permits, property taxes, and rental licenses are all more than 20% above where they were this time last year, which is a great indicator, I think, for the rest of the fiscal year. Business licenses are about 20% below. But given that building permits are trending up, I think business licenses will follow because so much of our business license revenue is associated with building activity. The other thing on business licenses is we've really collected a very small portion of what we would expect to collect for the year because the renewals don't happen until the late spring. I believe April 30th is the due date. So stay tuned on business licenses, but I think they will turn around. General fund expenditures, we are below slightly where we were last year and also below our budget target, which would be 33% for this point in time in the fiscal year. So that is good news. All the city's departments are at or below the target. with the exception of the BSOs, and those are very seasonal in nature, so that percentage doesn't really work. Next page, we'll talk about the cash position. You can see that the general fund cash is about $1 million less than where we were last year. That's just kind of reflective of this point in time in the fiscal year. We've spent more than we've brought in. Same thing with total cash. We've spent more in total for all funds of the city than we've brought in, so our cash balances are down compared to the prior year. That percentage on the LGIP is from last month. The correct amount is 0.2161, so interest rates are just not good right now. That being said, we can transfer some money from BB&T up to the LGIP. $2 million is a little above the $1 million that we target for holding locally, so we'll take care of that this week.
Debbie,
And
I
take
wondered
advantage
that,
of whatever interest we can.
that 0.5%. I wondered where you were getting that big rate.
Yeah, it's not much, but every little bit helps. Restricted cash is 8.4 million, 44% of total cash. Fund balances, again, you can see that we now have an audited fund balance to reflect there in the first column, $20,909,000. Year-to-date expenditures are in excess of revenue, so we're reducing the fund balance down to 19,158, but you can see the budget there in the shaded column. The budget projects that we'll get down to below 15 million in fund balance by the end of the year, and that's just reflective of the expenditures we're planning compared to the revenues. Okay, next page. Dig in a little on tourism revenues. So you remember I said that we were about $500,000 off in tourism revenues compared to the prior year. But we are not as bad as we thought we would be, which is the good news here. So you can see that compared to the prior year, for the first 3 months, we're down 6% in municipal accommodations fee, but we expected to be 25% below. So that's a positive sign. And you can see that in September, we're actually beating last year's September number. I think that some timing impacts. People are catching up now that they have a little more cash on hand. But it's a good indicator. Next page, we have received the first quarterly payment from the state.
Hey, Debbie, hang on one second. I think there's a question.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to mention that in talking with one of the realty agencies, starting my video, and talking with one of the realty agencies, said that they had their best September ever, and are continuing to see a high rate of booking into the fall, which is maybe a result of the changing nature of with COVID. So it seems like we may see some spillover season into the fall and maybe even the winter. Time will tell.
So the state aid tax for the quarter is following the same trend we saw on the municipal side, which makes perfect sense because they're calculated on the same base revenues. About 6.6% below the prior year, but significantly better than we thought when we were budgeting. We still haven't received any money from Charleston. You'll, of course, recall that they told us not to expect any. But you can see there in the note that the county staff did commit to revisiting distributions if the county's revenues were stronger than anticipated. Given that ours are stronger than anticipated, I would expect the counties would be too. So we shall see whether or not we see any county revenue in the coming months. Hospitality tax. The revenues have been even more impacted by COVID than what we're seeing on the accommodation side. Plus, we have the, the Morgan Creek Grill obviously is not in operation. So that was a significant hospitality tax generator that is gone. Wild Dunes, I believe those restaurants are operating, but at a much lower capacity than in the prior year. And I believe even some of the other restaurants in the city they're open, but they're just not operating at the same capacity they've seen in the past. So we will continue to watch this, make sure that collections are not an issue, and hope for an increase in this revenue stream going forward. Beach preservation fee, same as Muni A tax, 6% below the prior year, but much better than we thought in the budget. Local option sales tax. So this is tax that's paid on accommodations plus all other economic activity. And you can see that we are only 3.2% behind the prior year for those 2 months that have been collected. So that's good news. Public safety building repair, we are wrapping that up. Next page or two, Ron, I think. Yeah, there we go. So, whoops. Bottom line is the staff has moved back into that building. The project is wrapping up. We have 1.4 million left in the construction contract amount, some of which I believe is the contractor's contingency that they have indicated they will not spend all of. And then the city's contingency, we still have a little more than $690,000 unspent. Drainage phase 3, we have continued Thomas and Hutton engineering expenses associated with 3 individual projects that they break up their invoice by designing, permitting for the small but high impact projects in the basin, engineering, design, and permitting for the outfall project, and the conceptual assessment of the Waterway Boulevard elevation study. So there were professional fees associated with each of those, the largest being the outfall project. Marina dock replacement. We've had our first application for payment from Salmon's Dredging. I believe that is associated with some upfront costs they needed associated with the offsite construction of some of the dock structure. And then professional services through ATM associated with permitting, grant applications, and construction admin.
And Debbie, I did receive a new pay application from Salmon's related to the bulkhead work that started today. So those invoices will be starting to pour in as well.
Okay. Questions or comments for Debbie? I don't know. I hope your takeaway is things are a whole lot better than where budget was. Not that far off of last year. Again, to Debbie's comment, we're only a third of the way through our fiscal year at this point, but I feel when we were reviewing numbers last week, I feel a lot better than where we were March, April timeframe when we were throwing darts and trying to guess what our budget was going to be for this year. But again, questions or comments for Debbie? Randy?
Yeah, just quick comment. As we look at the contingency that the city's holding on public safety, a good reminder where we didn't anticipate for the bulkhead recoding, they're roughly equivalent amounts of money. So while we didn't anticipate one, we're likely to save almost the same amount of money that's required to cover that as another capital investment.
Yeah, it's fair. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions? Desiree, anything to add from your view? You good?
No.
Debbie, thank you as always.
Sure.
Appreciate that. We don't have any old business, so we'll move into new business. The first item is consideration of recommendation from the Public Safety Committee for replacing the 2004 engine 102 pumper truck by purchasing demo truck in the amount of $525,000 in fiscal year 22 instead of refurbishing an existing truck at $335,000. You have a memo in your packet kind of detailing the background that Chief had done for us, and Desiree, I'm sure will have comment, but if we can have a motion and a second, we'll get into discussion on this topic.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Thank you, Rusty. Questions or comments? Or Desiree, do you have anything you'd like to lay the groundwork for?
Well, the memo that's included in the packet is very specific. I'll just go ahead and, summarize that in that we have an opportunity here to purchase a demo truck, which is less expensive than a customized truck for the department. And the recommendation that's being made is that instead of refurbishing the existing truck, which we have learned is valued at $12,000, that we rebudget the $300,000 that we have in our current budget to FY22, and then go ahead and budget the $525,000, which would allow the city to purchase a demo truck. We have had really good success and experience with demo trucks in the past. It's a great opportunity for us to, bring more value to the community and to the department, rather than making such a large investment on an equipment that will only be guaranteed for a year and it's valued at $12,000. So if there's any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer. I know Chief Graham is on the line as well. But this is sort of a recommendation, and the Public Safety Committee agreed with that, and hopefully the rest of the group agrees.
Randy.
Yeah, comment and question. Just over the last couple of years, kudos to the fire department where we started out, buying new equipment. They've done a phenomenal job in trying to save us money. Question to go along with that, Desiree, is the intention to purchase or lease as we did the other trucks, or it's too early to know what the best method would be? With very cheap money out there right now, we had the discussion with the prior truck. Are we better off on a lease with an option of paying that lease off rather than using the capital all in one fell swoop?
Yeah, we can certainly, that's how we paid for the refurbishment and the last replacement. So we can definitely build a budget with that assumption, and with plans of having a municipal lease cover that purchase, even though we have monies on hand.
We don't know at this time.
No, certainly a possibility, and it could be very well be the best option for the city at that point. We'd be looking at that when we're building the budget early next year.
Yeah, and I think, Randy, this is going to be a fiscal 22 transaction, so we'll just see where rates are. And all right, hey, Ryan, sorry, go ahead.
That's exactly what I was going to say. We're rolling it into the next budget cycle, and we'll discuss it at that time. But also with this purchase, with the refurbishment on a 2003 pumper truck, like I said, it was only valued at about $12,000. The refurbishment would only have been it would only been good for a year, basically. So we're getting a new 2021 truck. So we have the warranty is so much longer on this, and we come out of the gate with a new truck.
And the plan is also to use the ladder truck that was just replaced. Correct. Using that as a down payment. It's valued at $51,000, so would be giving that to E1 as a down payment. If approved by council tonight, we will be issuing a letter of intent so that they separate the demo truck, and we're able to add some of the modifications that the truck would need to meet our needs, which is also it's included in the 525 number. What those modifications would be, they're around $50,000 if I'm remembering correctly.
I think that's right.
So we'd be doing that and then issuing payment upon delivery in FY22.
John Moy, question.
Thank you, Chair Pounds. And I would echo Councilmember Bell that I think the fire department, all of our public safety have done a great job of presenting options and saying, here's what we can do with this, and here's this option. I'm just curious about the difference in not warranty, but useful life of the 2003 refurbished versus the new fire truck. I don't know, Chief Graham, if you can you give us a rough estimate of what we could expect?
Actually, I cannot without having it completely evaluated. Safe Industries. We are doing quite a bit of work to each one of the trucks. We actually had to replace the computer chip in the 95-foot ladder truck that we just had refurbed. Just keep in mind, these trucks are all the same age, so there's no reason to think that that's not going to happen pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
We also, with the springs and the load that's been going on these trucks over the years, all this would have been taken care of with a refurb, but I can get a number, but the biggest problem with this truck here is they're kind of in a holding pattern. If we do not issue a letter of intent, it goes to the first person. And right now they're kind of holding it for us.
Mm-hmm.
If we say we don't, so you can't make a decision tonight and January 1st, you want it, it's going to go up, I believe it's 4% if we don't make a decision this month, and another 6% in April. So you're looking at about a 9 to 10% increase if this decision to purchase a truck is held off. The good thing about this truck versus a custom, because we are committing early enough before the build to start, we're going to basically get a custom truck with the demo rate.
Mm-hmm.
So they can customize it to our needs as long as we lock in before they start building.
Chief, I think if you could talk about how long we could expect to have this new demo truck in service. I mean, are we looking at a 15-year, 18-year time frame before we're ready to replace that one?
It all depends. Anything can go from, say, 10 to 20 years. It just depends on the conditions. It depends on, there's a lot of new emissions out these days. The standards are a lot higher than they used to be. We did have a lot of trouble with our 2009 when we first got it. That has been since repaired. There was a unanticipated consequence of upgrading the emissions. That's been taken care of. So most likely a minimum of 15 years, but it could be anywhere 10 to 20 years.
John, did that answer your question? Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, the chief said, that's something, it's a difficult question to answer. How do you, but I recall when we did the previous refurbishment that the company that was doing the refurbishment essentially kind of gave us the comparison, and I just don't remember the exact timeframes, but I want to say there was about a 50% increase in useful life of the new versus the old, but I don't know if that's correct.
Well, keep in mind that truck is the 95-foot ladder truck. It's a rock solid Detroit diesel engine, and that is the workhorse of E1. They have a lot of refurbs on that particular truck. Not so many on the pumper. We thought that it was a great idea until we found out the current value of the truck. And to be able to customize a demo to fit our needs as if though we were ordering a spec truck. The opportunity does not come along often. And the truck is basically being held for us unless we can't make a decision, and it's to the next person.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Yep. Thank you. Rusty.
I just think it's a smart move. I think we ought to take a vote on this. I'm in favor.
There you go. We'll start the voting right now then. Couple, you want to do a roll call?
Absolutely. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
Chair Pounds,
Aye.
all in favor?
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Graham. Item B, consideration of recommendation from the Public Safety Committee to award an amount not to exceed $3,000 to restripe existing hotel 15-minute loading zone parking areas in Front Beach into paid parking spaces. This will obviously have some revenue associated with it, but a cost to get us there. So I'll make that motion that we approve this consideration. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ryan. Questions? Comments? Nicole?
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
Chair Pounds,
Aye,
all in favor?
thank you. Next item C is consideration of.
Chairman,
Anybody?
Oh, sorry, Ryan. Yeah,
No,
go
it's
ahead.
not a problem. I was just gonna ask either Desiree or the chief, Chief Cornett, what they expect the turnaround time would be on something like this, now that we, or did you have any idea? Would it be after the first of the year?
Chief, do you know the answer to that? I think if I recall the conversation from public safety, if we did it before the end of the year, they would honor the price of the $3,000. I think that is the plan, to get it done this winter.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Ryan. Sorry.
Have
Didn't mean to
quick-
cut you off.
Quick question.
Yes,
Thank you. Just curious to know, how much, do we know how much space we would expect to generate during the season? Do we have
Yes,
that?
I believe we're talking about 4 additional spaces in total.
Wait, how much each one would generate in revenue?
we don't have
We-
that.
Yeah, we don't, yeah.
I thought maybe we had that figure. That's all right. Just curious.
More, how about more than we're making now?
Fair.
All right, moving on. Item C, consideration of award a contract to Gulfstream in the amount of $614,985.07 for the small but high impact drainage projects at Sparrow Drive, Forest Trail, Cross Lane, 32nd Avenue, and 41st Avenue.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Second.
Check.
Second, Randy, thank you. But go ahead, Jimmy.
When will these projects start? And is this the order of priority? Is Sparrow Drive first?
Yeah, thank you. Let me make one comment before Desiree hops in on that. If you haven't watched the Public Works meeting, Thomas and Hutton did a really nice presentation on Phase 3 drainage as well as these particular drainage projects, Jimmy. And it really is eye-opening on what we're doing here. It's a very complex jigsaw puzzle, part A before part B project that we've got going on here. But so again, I would just encourage you to watch the Public Works Committee if you haven't seen that, just to see, or the presentations on the website as well. So sorry, Desiree, you want to answer Jimmy's question?
Sure. The way that it was presented in the during the RFP process and selection in the pre-bid meeting is that we were expecting to get approval from council this month. We can execute the contract and issue the notice to proceed right before the first of the year. And there is an expected 3 to 4 months turnaround for the completion of all 5 projects. The 41st Avenue project actually it comprises 3 different smaller projects that we're counting as one. They're going to be completing all projects. Councilmember Ward, there's no I don't know where they're going to start first. So all of the ones that are listed here will be addressed as part of this award.
But this should be finished within 4 months, you believe?
Before season.
The goal is to finish before season, yes. Obviously, there could be unforeseen circumstances that we'd have to handle if that's
Sure.
the case.
Thank you.
And I think Desiree and Ron, you guys had pulled this Thomas and Hutton presentation out and actually put it under the project, if I remember right. So you don't have to go hunt for the Public Works meeting. And for anybody watching, it's sitting there on the website under this particular project. It's a very well done presentation. Rusty.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd be being on Public Works along with you. I totally agree. It was a well-done presentation, very eye-opening, and really shows the priorities, and it looks like they have a good plan in place to move forward with it.
Other questions or comments? John?
Thank you, Chair. And as someone who has not yet seen the presentation or watched that meeting, my first reaction, obviously we want the lowest price that we can get, but anytime I look at bids where there's a pretty significant swing in pricing, I ask myself, why is that the case? And always, of course, wanting to pay the lowest, I also want to make sure that we're not going to get bombarded with change orders and that they're actually going to be able to do quality work. So if you could maybe just speak to the, Thomas and Hutton's reaction to these bids, and maybe if there was any explanation as to why there was so much difference between the three bids.
Yeah, and the low bid Gulfstream, they have done a lot of work with, John, so I felt real comfortable with their history with that particular firm. It wasn't some unknown that was coming in with that price point. And if you look at the bids in the packet, it's pretty detailed at the individual project level. So I think from a confidence in the amount of the bid, the amount of the work to be done, not speaking for everybody on the committee, but and Desiree, I'll let you opine here in a minute. I think Thomas and Hutton had very high confidence that these folks could obviously do the work and that the price was solid from a, additional change orders and pieces. John, to your exact question. So Desiree, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, just only that when we opened the bids, the Thomas and Hutton team was very excited about Gulfstream having bid and actually being the lowest bid. They did spend some time doing some due diligence and talking to all three bidders and make sure that they understand the scope and expectations. And it's actually the cost of the contract has been revised. If you look at the number that we received in the proposal, and the contract amount, there's a difference between a $2,000 difference. So we'll be making, it's less, $2,000 less than the item on the agenda. But yeah, they're, a solid company. Thomas and Hutton has had plenty of experience with them, and we feel confident that they're well equipped to do the work.
Kevin.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just to piggyback Desiree, Gulfstream's been around here for a long time. They've done a lot of big projects, very professional, well-run company, and everybody's heard of the Beach Company. So they are part of the Beach Company. So good company for whatever that's worth. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Yep, Desiree.
Yes, I do want to point out in your packet, we included a sort of a breakdown of the cost and the funds that are available. We have $500,000 in the budget, and that's what we've been using to, we've been including in the budget to address some of these what we're called small but high impact drainage projects that are connected in the basin to the phase 3 drainage. But you all recall that a month ago, 2 months ago, the city council approved a $30,000 change order to Thomas and Hutton for bidding and construction admin services that we felt like was necessary. And we wanted to add a 15% contingency to that number. So the whole project comes at $734,411, which is obviously more than what we have in our FY21 budget. However, we talked to the Public Works Committee about having another funding source in the NPDES stormwater fee fund that the Charleston County holds on behalf of the city. And back in 2019, the city council voted to increase that fee from 48 to 72 so that we have more funds in hand to do projects such as this. So that is a fund that's available to the city. It requires an action by council to tap into those funds. And the balance of that fund currently is $475,000. And every year it grows by $215,000 approximately. So our plan would be what we're proposing is that council approves the project. And then, if we don't use the contingency, worst case scenario, we'd be tapping into that fund for $234,000. Should we don't need contingency, then it'd be roughly $100,000 less. But those are monies that are available to the city for projects like this. So we would recommend that we pursue it. We pursue that way, and that way we can complete all 5 projects as planned and have them done before the season.
Thank you, Desiree. Kevin.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. I see that we put a contingency, the 15% is our contingency. I didn't notice any contingency in Gulfstream's number. Am I missing something?
You're correct. The contingency we'd be holding, there's no contingency in the contract amount.
On their side. Okay, thank you.
Nicole, you want to roll call us, please?
Absolutely. Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
Chair Pounds,
Aye,
all in favor?
thank you.
Just a question,
Yes.
sorry, Chair. Just to confirm, the motion did include using and requesting NPDES funds to cover the difference for this project?
That's what I heard.
Yes,
All right. Okay, thank you.
thank you. Item D, consideration of award of a contract to BC3 in the amount of $133,885 for citywide information technology support and services. We can have you had bid information in your packet. I think we had 7 or 8 proposals come through. So if we can have a motion and a second, we'll have some conversation around this one.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Second, Rusty, thank you. Desiree, what would you like to add to this item, please?
Yeah, so this is in front of you all for approval after the staff went through a very thorough process evaluating proposals for a company to take over IT support and services for the city. We have been with a different company for the past 2 years after our former chief of police retired. And we feel like that contract expired. So in the past several months, we've been going through this process and interviewing these folks, and all department heads participated in that. And this comes as a unanimous recommendation from the staff. We feel like the city needs to go to a more comprehensive and broad company that has a lot of experience with municipalities. VC3 is currently the company that supports the city's website, and we've had really good experience with them, their level of response and professionalism. They have extensive experience in supporting numerous municipalities in the state. They actually have over 40 clients of municipalities very similar to our size and depth. And they are also have a lot of experience providing IT services for law enforcement entities and have more than 100 certified employees with the Criminal Justice Information Services, which is a certification that we require anybody that supports the city so that they can provide services to our PD. So there's a series of requirements there. They're headquartered in Columbia. However, they have indicated and in part of the proposal that they will be providing on-site support to the city in events of an emergency. And they will be working through the city with an onboarding process to ensure that the city's infrastructure is robust and support can be provided remotely when necessary. So with this, this is, for many, many years, we've seen how the city did not invest in a very appropriate or proper infrastructure, IT infrastructure. And we feel like we're at a point where we really need somebody that has a breadth of experience with communities and organizations as us. And we feel confident after our research and that the VC3 will be the right person for the city at this point.
And Desiree, just real quick, I mean, this is obviously a budgeted item, and we have it in our fiscal 21 budget at 150,000, I believe.
Correct. Yes, we have been planning of going through this RFP process and trying to secure a vendor. And we knew, just knowing what other communities our size pay, we did some research and we used that when we built our budget. So yes, we have been planning on the cost and budgeted for that.
Yeah, thank you. Randy.
Yeah, just a comment, now completing the 3rd year for those of us that started on council, watching the city go from 3x5 cards for payroll, a police chief protecting all vital records. It is kudos to Desiree for getting us to a professional level of IT. I have to say, I was stunned coming in here how many years behind the curve this city actually was, because having a police chief support vital records just seems pretty dangerous, frankly. And he did a great job. No personal affront to our prior chief, but we have to have professional help here. Desiree, quick question. Do they have experience with cybersecurity as well?
Yes, they do. And that was another big component in our decision making. Just having gone through the ransomware attack feels like it was yesterday, but last October, they have plenty of experience with providing those services to the city.
Thank you, Randy. Other questions or comments? Nicole, you want to roll call us, please?
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith. Appears to be frozen. Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy. I don't see Councilmember Buchanan on the screen. Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
Chair Pounds,
Aye.
all in favor?
There's Susan back. Nicole, you want?
Yeah, I'm back. I,
Would you like to vote? Yes, okay, thank you.
sorry. Yeah, I've
Thank
popped
you,
out
Nicole.
for a second.
Yep, that's all right. Our last item, item E, is consideration of a change order to Salmon's Dredging in the amount of $23,634 for the relocation of the former water sports dock outside of the encroachment area in accordance with the directive from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. You had detail provided separately from Desiree because it came in after our packet was prepared, and you've seen that breakdown. We can have a motion and a second. We can open it for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Desiree, anything you want to add here before Q&A?
So we've been planning for this, and we knew that this was coming this winter off season for that dock. You all are aware that earlier, actually last year, we received notice from the Army Corps of Engineers that the existing floating dock was encroaching into the channel offset limitations. And we were advised to make plans to relocate that out of that channel immediately. However, we received the permits 2 months ago, those permits. So we had to wait until the permits were on hand before we planned for, but it worked out perfectly because we have Salmon's Dredging who's already mobilized at the marina to do the work related to the marina dock rehab project. And we received this bid from them. I apologize, we did not have it in time for real property to go through the typical committee process. But since council will not meet will not have a regular meeting in December, I figured we would present this so this work could happen before the first set of floating docks arrive in January. We're trying to get as much work done with the project before the floating docks arrive. So the total cost of the change order is roughly $23,634, and that includes an additional option of roughly $3,300, which we're recommending. I discussed this with Kirby, and the recommendation is to go ahead and remove another portion of the floating dock that would be protruding underneath the gangway to ensure that it doesn't further damage the recommending this, and on approval they would be working to get that.
Hey, Desiree, can you mute Douglas up? He just did. Thank you. I think that's where we're going to questions or comments? Nicole, you want to call us, please?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Council. Oh, go ahead.
Desiree.
Just quickly, we are planning on using contingency funds from the marina project, or roughly $500,000 to cover this expense.
Thank you. All right, Nicole.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
Chair Pounds,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you. Miscellaneous business. Our next meeting is 6 p.m. Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. I think we're all ready to turn the calendar over and move on past 2020 for sure.
That was 2020.
Yes. So motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? stay right
Aye.
here because it's 6 o'clock, Mayor, on the dot.
I'm
job.
impressed.
Do
I'm
we-
very
Do we,
impressed.
do we stay here?
Don't we
Yep.
switch?
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna move right
right
into
here.
the next one.
Oh,
Philip, you,
Okay, welcome everyone to the Isle of Palm City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 17th, and it's about 6 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order and acknowledge that both the press and the public were duly notified in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. This is a virtual meeting due to the COVID-19. Please feel free to join me or not as I say a prayer to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and then roll call. Dear wise and loving Father, I thank you for this joyous time of the year when we can join with our families for the holidays. I thank you for your guidance over this past year and realize we have more to come and ask that you look over and guide us through these challenging times. Oh, Heavenly Father, I ask that you look over us and look over those who may be sick and comfort their families. Oh, Heavenly Father, please look over and protect our military and our public safety personnel who protect us every day, year round. These heroes sacrifice not only their lives, but the time they are not with their families. So please look over their families in their absence and return them safely. Oh, Heavenly Father, help us tonight and guide us in making the right decisions for not only now, but for future generations. It is in your name I pray. Amen. Ron, flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Nicole, roll call, please.
Absolutely. Councilmember Pounds,
Here.
Councilmember Popson,
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Bell,
here.
Councilmember Streetman,
Here.
Councilmember Moy,
Here.
Councilmember Buchanan,
I'm here, back.
I'm sorry, Mayor Carroll.
Here.
You have a quorum?
Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Citizens' comments. No one signed up for our virtual comments. Any emailed comments will be viewed or can be viewed online. We appreciate anybody who sent anything in. We do have a presentation of the 20 audited financial statements by McKay Kitty.
And Mayor, we have Justin Kitty on the line from McKay Kitty, and he will be providing a presentation to you all on our FY20 audited financial statements. So he'll be sharing his screen so you can see, everyone will be able to see the presentation. And in the packets you have include the packets that are publicly available, we have the final report. So if there's any questions, I'm sure we'll get to them after the presentation. Justin?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me on. Appreciate your time tonight. I'll apologize in advance. Your packet, I noticed, was 240 pages, and the audit consumed exactly 99 pages of that. So I'm making quite an interruption in your meeting here. So I'll try to be pretty brief, because obviously there's other things on the agenda. And your finance team do a great job to where there's no surprises in the numbers based on our audited results. So I'll share out my screen here. If there are questions, let me get this pulled over here. Yep. All right. If there are questions, certainly let me know. Happy to stop at any point. And certainly if there's anything I don't have an answer for on the spot, we'll certainly get back to Debbie, the mayor, on that. So yeah, Justin Kitty with McKay Kitty, and the presentation here is for the past 12 months ending June 30th, 2020, audited financial statements and financial position of the city. McKay Kitty CPA firm here in the Charleston area. I've been providing these services to municipalities 30 plus years, and I'm Justin Kitty, one of the partners out of the Mount Pleasant office. In the 99-page document that is in your packet, there's 5 main sections or areas to that large document. You've got the independent auditor's report, the management discussion and analysis, which basically takes a lot of numbers that are in the other 90 pages and breaks it into text, something a little bit more digestible by some of the users of the financial statements. Obviously, the financial statements themselves representing the financial position and performance of the city. It has a lot of supplementary information, which provides a lot more detail on the high level basic financial statements. And then there is a few pages on compliance. As part of our auditor role, we are required to note if we see any non-compliance with state and local laws, regulations, as well as if there are any deficiencies that we note during our audit process in internal control processes of the city. So really what I'm going to go through just in a couple slides is really the first 3, tabs or bullets there. I will say on the compliance internal controls, we found no issues. We had no deficiencies in internal controls that came to our attention. So there's really not a slide for that, but obviously that's of importance and, usually something folks want some comments on. So, all right, next slide. So independent auditor's report, as I've said a couple of times, I think at this point, this is for the year ended June 30, 2020. The purpose of the audit is for us to use our skill set, obtain audit evidence, perform testing to see if we believe the financial information, the financial statements as presented to us are fairly stated. And then second bullet from the bottom there, our result from the testing was that the numbers, yes, are fairly stated, not only in the final audit package here, but as presented to us by the finance team. So, with that, that's an unmodified opinion or a clean audit opinion for the city for the year ended June 30, 2020. Management discussion or analysis. Again, this is just high level kind of verbiage on what we'll cover just briefly in the basic financial statements, financial highlights that are in there. The assets of the city exceed the liabilities by about $33 million at the end of June 30, 2020. Total revenues for that 12-month period, total revenues was 16.5. Total expenses or costs were 13.9, and that resulted in a profit for the year, increasing the city's position by $2.6 million for the year. So again, good picture from a balance sheet standpoint, large net position, and I'll show you some of the details on that, and then obviously the way we maintain as well as grow our net position is we've got to be profitable as a city, in order to do that. Just a couple other highlights from the management discussion analysis. The city did add capital additions of about $3.7 million during the year. And you can see that was public safety building, drainage, vehicle, and some other miscellaneous small equipment, as well as incurring some of the design costs with the marina dock. Depreciation expense for the year. So that was not only on the new items, but things that have been in existence of the city, was about $1.7 million for the year. So spent about 3.7 in new asset costs, took depreciation of new assets as well as old assets of about 1.7. Debt for the city remained pretty much even from the prior year. We had normal debt service payments that reduced the debt. And then we took on a new capital lease, which I'm pretty sure was related to the fire truck. for the year. So, debt was paid down, also incurred new capital lease, which gets treated as a long-term obligation for the city. And then obviously always important, city's bond rating. You are aware of that. We're at a AA1 rating, which is an investment grade rating under the Moody's rating system. So that's kind of the highlights out of that management discussion and analysis section. And moving into the actual numbers here. I'm sorry, does somebody have a question? Or even if not, I'll pause for a question. Can't really see everybody, so speak up if you. Okay. On the balance sheet or statement of net position for the city at the end of the year, again, a lot of lines, a lot of numbers here. Just going to focus on this total column for 2020, and we have 2019 there, so you have a nice comparison, right? I mean, numbers are only, I think, meaningful in a lot of instances if we have relativity to where were we the prior year. So you can see ending June 30, 2020, the city had $50 million in assets, up from 2019. Other large numbers on here, city's liabilities pretty much remain unchanged. So what that results in is our net position that I mentioned 2 slides ago. Our net position increased from $30 million to $33 million with that, again, profitability of about $2.7 million in there. And you can see the comparison, kind of how the numbers adjusted. The increase was, our current assets. And then I mentioned, obviously acquiring some new capital assets or property, plant, and equipment was the main increases between 2019 as compared to 2020. You can see of the net position of the city. Yes, we've got a $33 million position. $22 million is the net that is tied up in your capital assets, property, plant, and equipment. $8 million has some restrictions on it. Those details are in the large financial statement document. And then you have unrestricted net position, net assets of about $3.3 million at the end of June, up a little bit from 2.9 or about $3 million from the prior year. Jimmy Ward have a question, I think.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Thank you for coming.
Sure.
Always a question that's interesting to me to explain to council in layman's terms, the line item that we recently have had to pick up in the past few years about the net pension liability. Would you care to make a comment or two about that?
Yeah, so comment on that is, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone in the room that it's not certainly a City of Owl Palms isolated incident. We have large unfunded pension liabilities all over this country related to governments at all levels. So that is based on actuarial calculations of what are we going to have to pay out in the future to our current and already retired folks that retired in future employees. So that is the fact that today, most municipalities, state and local governments have not set aside enough money to fund those future pension obligations. That was a pretty big change. Honestly, it's one that's still being wrestled with, as you probably know, Councilman Ward, in the accounting profession, because this is not, although that is accurate, right? Actuarial, there is not enough money that is being paid into these programs. It is a little misleading, which is obviously never the intent of financial reporting, but it's not like the city is going to have to stroke a check for that next week, right?
Right. That's the main point.
At some point, somewhere in the future, we've got to close this gap. And again, it's not a City of Owl Palms. It's a It's a nationwide issue. Some of it has to do with life expectancies have gotten longer. Some of it has to do with rate of return on investments and what the market is doing compared to the assumptions in all these actuarial calculations. So that I tried to boil that down, but yeah, it's a future obligation that someone is going to have to pay at some point. You know, probably through higher taxes, reduced benefits, not a whole lot different than, you know, an unfunded Social Security system that we're obviously looking at as a country.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure thing. Okay. I will move it on to the next page, statement of changes in that statement of net position. You know, that's the revenue and expense statement there. Again, kind of take the same approach. Said this in verbiage a little bit ago. Total revenues for 2020, $16.5 million. Total cost, 13.9, leaving us with that, you know, increase in our net position of about $2.7 million for the year 2020. So big picture wise, you know, revenue is down some, which obviously is no surprise with pandemic that obviously the globe is facing. You know, those impact to your tax dollars as a municipality. Those revenue sources have taken somewhat of a hit in the, I guess, the first 6 months of 2020 that is included in this audit period, and a slight reduction in cost over 2019 from 14.2 to 13.9. So, but still, you know, COVID year, a lot of uncertainty. You know, it's encouraging to see the city still move the needle forward and upward $2.6 million on the city's net position, which obviously is important. You know, we have net positions or fund balances for being able to weather storms, I'd say, as a country, and down to the individual business and individuals in this country where we've weathered and still are weathering a pretty big storm. And that's why we need to have fund balances or net positions to stay healthy. All right. Some auditor communication. Always want to communicate this to, you know, board members, the mayor. You know, we did not have to propose any material audit adjustments. So again, that's always a significant thing for me. Final audits always look pretty. The question is, was it pretty whenever we walked in? So the fact that we did not have to, during our testing, we don't believe we discovered any significant changes that needed to be made. That's a positive thing. We did not encounter any difficulties during the audit. City staff very timely in turning information around to us, which again, as an auditor, can be a frustration at times. So appreciate Debbie and city staff for doing that. Didn't have any disagreements over any, you know, accounting issues, anything of that nature. I mentioned no internal control issues. And then we did have 2 proposed adjustments that related to a little bit of property, plant, and equipment, which these for your size of a city and the dollars here, again, we deem these to be immaterial amounts and something that can just be posted in the future period. It's not skewing the financial statements for the user. All right. That was quick. Happy to answer questions. Again, I think my summary is, you know, it's a good financial position for the city at the end of June 30th. We're still going through a pretty big situation, obviously, as a country, and we're all impacted by that. But the city, you know, moved the needle in the right direction from a performance standpoint. And I know it's something that Debbie and Desiree are continuing to, you know, obviously be focused on what kind of changes and when does the city need to pivot. Oh, Mayor, I can see you talking. You might be on mute.
Okay. Can you put everybody's face back up so we can see them so we can ask questions?
Oh yeah. Let me see. How do I do that? I got a grid. Yeah. Maybe I need to expand this guy.
Justin, I think you have to stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, does anyone have questions for Justin? Justin, I think that was an incredible presentation. My hat's off to Treasurer Suggs and staff for the jobs they have done. We can't thank you enough. It's nice to have a report like that, even during a pandemic year that we've just experienced and are still experiencing. I think we've done an incredible job trying to hang in there. Anyone else?
Appreciate that and agreed.
Thank you very much for being here with us tonight.
Okay. Well, thank you all. If you have any questions afterwards, Debbie certainly knows where to find us at, and be happy to get back to anybody. So thanks for your time.
All right, Justin, thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, consent agendas. We have 3 items, 3 meetings, regular council meeting of October 27th, 2020, special meeting November 3rd, 2020, and special meeting November 10th, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any changes, deletions, anything? Hearing none. Roll call, please. Mute.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you very much.
Me
Moving
too.
on.
No, I'm sorry, Councilmember Ward. I felt like there was something missing, somebody missing.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
All right, moving on, Ways and Means. Chairman Pounds.
All right, Mayor, since we just finished this meeting, this will be brief. Ron, if you don't mind putting up the 1-page financial summary real quick, we'll cover that first, Mayor, before we get into approval items. Thank you, Ron. So information through October 31st, revenues you see on the left-hand side, about 4.3 million compared to last year, about 4.8 at this time. So roughly $500,000 difference year over year, and almost all of that's due to COVID-19 effect. Expenditures you see on the top right of just over 6 million compared to last year, about 4.2 million. Most of that increase in expenses is the public safety building and the $600,000 refurbishment of the ladder truck. So easily identifiable items on why we're over from that standpoint. General fund at the bottom of the page, you can see we're in good shape there year over year. Property tax, building permit, and rental license revenues are more than 20% ahead of where we were this time last year. So good shape there. General fund expenditures are below the prior year and the budget. So we're in a good spot. We have about $19 million in cash with about 8.4 million of that is being restricted. So thank you, Ron. Any questions on the financials real quick? I know we just covered them in more detail earlier. Mayor, we've got 5 items that are listed in the agenda, little I through V. And since we just had our Ways and Means meeting and all of these were approved unanimously, we can take one motion to approve all at one time. So we don't have to go through the detail again.
Motion to approve them all.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Nicole?
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you very much.
Mayor, last item, our next meeting is Tuesday, January 19th at 6 p.m. and that's it.
Thank you. Great report. Thank you very much. Moving on, public safety.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Committee met on Monday, 9 o'clock at November 9th. All committee members are present, including the administration. Under old business, we had update on the public safety building rehabilitation project. As you all may have seen, they're moving forward on that. All the trailers are now gone. At the time of the meeting, the bifold doors for the fire department had been delivered. I think they are now installed. So everybody's moving back in and getting back into the swing of things over there. We did have an update on the pedestrian crosswalks and intersection safety. The city is working with the SCDOT on the installation of new crosswalks at 49th, 51st, 53rd, and 56th Avenues. SCDOT has approved the request conceptually, and we're looking forward to moving forward with that. We're also looking forward to working with Wild Dunes for their willingness to partner with the city on the costs related to the construction of these crosswalks in that area. We had some discussion with Chief Cornett about the installation of flashing beacons at some of the crosswalks. And because the Secretary of the DOT said they have received numerous complaints from people claiming that the flashlights can be too bright and kind of a nuisance. We're going to look into that as well prior to installation and make sure we're not putting up something that's going to be a problem that will be to the neighbors in that area. We had an update on our front beach loading zones, which we discussed earlier. Basically, we're taking some of the loading zones that they're basically 24-hour loading zones and converting those 24-hour loading zones to, part-time loading zones, and then opening it up for parking, for beach parking or restaurant parking or commercial parking in that area, so people can get out and utilize the Ocean Boulevard parking areas. We had consideration of replacing the 2003 engine pumper truck. We had discussion of that extensively in Ways and Means. Basically, we're taking the funds that we've saved for this year, rolling it into next year, and building on that and purchasing a demo truck at a reduced rate. Under new business, we had discussion and consideration of proposal of resolution 2020 authorizing the consumption of beer and wine in amplified music at the Holiday Street Festival, and we'll have that discussion later on, I believe, in the agenda. We had both department reports underneath the fire department and the police department, and then we adjourned. And our next meeting is scheduled for January.
Great report. Any questions? Hearing none. Moving on. Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. We met on Thursday, November 5th at 8 a.m. We had representative from South Carolina Aquarium speaking about the cigarette litter on the beach, and since our smoking ban previously, and talked about the reduction there. Not sure how much is as a result of our ordinance or just COVID this year, but hopefully that will continue in the right direction. Continue good reports from our director and assistant director just on day-to-day work, as well as some pothole work and drainage work around the community. We talked about this earlier. We had a great update from Thomas and Hutton on phase 3 drainage, small internal projects, and the Waterway Boulevard path elevation. And again, for council or public watching, if you haven't seen that presentation, it's worth spending some time. It's on the website underneath the project tab. A lot of complexity to these outfalls as well as these small projects, but critical to taking care of some of our drainage issues on the beach. On the city. Discussion of outsourcing household garbage. Donnie mentioned that the Seagrove condos are going to eliminate their backdoor service, and what that means for all of us is a huge increase in efficiencies for Donnie and his team to decrease the backdoor service that happens in a lot of these condo communities. We had an update with our MOU and our work with Dominion. Desiree and I've had a couple of meetings with those folks trying to push the ball forward with regard to using our non-standard service fund money, as well as preparing for the next tree trimming cycle that'll happen in 2024, I think it is. So some good effort there. We've had a good discussion and consideration of the amendment to the city's zoning code, which we'll take up later in a second reading. And that's primarily for the Water and Sewer Commission and sewer in the island. Our next meeting, we actually are going to have a meeting on December 3rd at 8 o'clock. And Mayor, that is bringing Dominion in and to talk about some estimates they have for us on small projects around the island with using our non-standard service fund money. So we'll have a meeting early December focused primarily just on the Dominion conversation. So that is it.
Thank you, sir. Good report. Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to chime in and say for anybody who has a concern or interest in drainage and what we're doing to improve that situation, I would encourage them to watch that presentation that on the website in a couple different places. It's just really encouraging to see the direction that we're going and the positive impact that we should have when we're all done.
Very
Although we'll never be done probably, but making big strides.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great report. All right, Councilmember Ward.
Yes, I would like to ask the chair, has there been any discussion on upkeep and maintenance of the golf cart path from 20th to the vet's office?
That has not been on our agenda, Jimmy.
Okay. Just some people would express some concern, maybe it needs a little maintenance. It's probably been about 4 years since it was installed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on that golf cart path, we had Public Works in there working on it earlier this spring, and they put down a new bed of gravel on it, but it probably with the rains and everything, it just washes out. But Public Works worked on it earlier this year, and probably get them just follow up with it again.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I don't know why my video is not working, but we did some work earlier this year. We'll go ahead and take a look at it again. I think like Councilmember Buchanan talked about, it may be a matter of just all the rain that we've been having. So I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the update.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, but it really is also that video talks about the changes to the upgrading of the multi-use path from 20th to 41st. And that is also really encouraging to see how that all fits together. And that'll be a long time coming, but when it gets done, it'll be spectacular.
Okay. Moving on, recreation. Recreation?
Sorry, hold on. Okay. Recreation Committee met on Monday, November 2nd, virtual meeting due to the pandemic. Let's see, we received a report from our Recreation Director. I'll just give a couple highlights. Ghostly Tide Tales that was held out on Front Beach was a great success. Included crab pot players. We also were really encouraged the Halloween Carnival and Golf Cart Parade. Also a wonderful success. That was an adaptation from COVID that our rec staff put together and really was so successful. We're looking at continuing to do the golf cart parade into the future. I think a lot of people really enjoyed that, and it was a boost, I think, not only for the participants, but the spectators. And there was a drive-through haunted house after that for those in their golf carts, as well as food trucks, but that was well done from a social distancing perspective. We talked about plans for the Holiday Street Festival, which would be coming up in December. At the time, that was a couple weeks ago, I think our outlook was brighter and not as concerned about, not that we weren't concerned about COVID, but things have definitely taken a turn since then in terms of the increase in number of cases with COVID nationally. And while we're not at the same level of many other communities in the Charleston County area, we're still seeing an increase. So after talking with staff today and hearing concerns from people in the community, I believe our recommendation or our plan is to cancel the Holiday Street Festival, which I know is we did not have to do, but that I believe that most people agree is the prudent and wise thing to do. I will note that the staff had come up with a lot of great plans for encouraging social distancing. The nature of the event was going to focus on a outdoor movie that would help limit movement and that kind of thing. But again, just at this point, we think that it's probably prudent just not to have the event. And welcome to hear feedback from other council members on that.
Susan, before you go any further, Desiree, this is on our agenda for later on. Should we just take it up now, or should we wait for under item 9?
The item 9 is specifically related to a resolution that would authorize beer and wine. I think if y'all have a conversation now, then there's no need to take action on the resolution later on.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, that's pretty much the recommendation. I just wanted to leave the opportunity for anybody to comment that had concerns about the canceling. If there was any conversation that needed to be had.
Councilmember Pounds and then Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. Susan and Norma Jean, I think it's the right call. I know everybody has fatigue and ready to party and do just about anything, but I think for right now, it is absolutely the right call. So thank you guys for the planning. I know that didn't get executed, but appreciate the effort involved with it. But good decision, I think.
Councilmember Bell.
Just going to echo those comments. I've had a few residents reach out, and it's a difficult decision. It's a great festival every year, but we've been pretty consistent with our behavior around COVID, and it's just absolutely the right but difficult decision. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Councilmember Streetman.
Yeah, I just, again, want to echo what the others have said so far. I think it is the right call to make right now, given the spike we've seen in COVID, nationwide, statewide, and, it's, we don't want to take a chance on being a super spreader down here. So, let's look forward to next year on this festival, which is truly a great festival. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, am I getting this right? This was a report of the committee meeting back a few weeks ago. Is that correct? Is that what Councilmember Smith just gave us?
Yes,
But then we mixed it in with current events, right?
Well, I talked to our city administrator ahead of time, and we thought this was the appropriate time.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I thought that we were just doing the minutes. I mean, we were doing a report from a committee, but I understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So am I understanding correctly that it's already been canceled?
That was the plan, and consulting today with our staff, and I believe our staff had heard other concerns from other members of the council individually.
Have we notified Front Beach merchants and restaurateurs?
We have not. So we have not yet made notification of the cancellation. We're having that discussion with council. That's what our recommendation is at this point.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just got to follow up with a couple things, because I talked with some of them today and they were all in favor of it going forward. They were saying that it's been a really hard year. They appreciate the city putting this on. It's a real boost to them at a really slow time of the year. And without naming names, it was a couple of restaurants on the Front Beach that were surprised to hear this, and they were hoping that it was going to continue. And I said I didn't know what the status was on it. And their comments were, if you don't want to come, you don't have to come. Now, we had the Ghostly Tie-Tails. The rec department did tremendous job of keeping people 6 feet apart. Of course, they made little squares on the sand. It was a huge crowd there. I must have been over 300 people there. The Front Beach is like wide open, and it'd be easy for people to be socially distanced. But it sounds like to me that the decision has already been made. But I was just wanting to pass on the thoughts and of some of the Front Beach merchants.
Well, and that is understandable, and but we did also receive a letter today from one of the Front Beach restaurant owners who asked us not to have the festival, and really was pretty pointed in questioning our decision making of having any kind of plan for a festival at all. So I guess this is more of a fluid situation, and Really, the concerns were starting to bubble up significantly today. I'm not sure if there's an issue with it not being on the agenda that we need to consider. We're not necessarily taking a vote on it. Desiree, if you could weigh in on that.
Yeah, this is just discussion, and this was included as part of the rec report last month. So, you know, it's part of the reporting that the Recreation Committee does during the committee meeting, and that you're reporting to the full body. So this is an appropriate conversation.
Councilmember Popson.
So is this something we can vote upon tonight? Just to follow up to Councilman Ward's, the Ghostly Tales went well. The Halloween Carnival went well. People were very respectful. They wore their masks. They were separated. I'd like to have a little bit more discussion on this, or is this ship already sailed?
We open the door for conversation. So, and those are good points. I would say something to consider is the usual attendance at our holiday street festival, and what the expectations are around that. That Desiree, I'm not sure if you're prepared to share those numbers with us, but it is a more significant crowd, I think, than you would expect at Ghostly Tide Tales and, well, the way the Halloween Carnival is set up this time.
Yeah, Norma Jean, do you have any numbers of previous attendance to the Holiday Street Festival? I guess it always depends on the weather and the kind of events and activities that are provided.
I really don't have any numbers, but what I can say is this year is going to be totally different than previous years, because we always started the festival off every year with the Sullivan's Island Elementary Chorus. Well, they're not going to be here this year. I'm not sure they even have a chorus, but we didn't think that was smart or prudent for us to do. And that brings a lot of people in, because you've got the mom, dads, grandparents attending that to watch them sing. We eliminated the carnival rides this year, so that wouldn't draw that crowd with the carnival rides. We wouldn't have the jump castles like we previously had. So far, we've only accepted half of the vendors that we typically do, so that we could spread those out to give people sufficient room so they wouldn't have to gather. So I think we've taken the effort to try to promote social distancing. It's difficult to make people social distance, and I don't know whether to argue for it or against it, because the numbers are going up. So I'm gonna serve the pleasure of this body. If you want us to go ahead with it, we'll go with it with what we have, with additional signage. If you don't think it's prudent for us to do, then we will cancel it, but it has not been canceled yet.
Desiree, do you feel that we should have a vote on this?
The group can make a motion to add this to the agenda. It would require a 2/3 vote so that it could be added and voted on. Certainly up to you all if you want to take an action, have an action taken on this issue.
Susan, as chair,
Jimmy, may I ask a question before?
Yes.
Absent a vote, right? So, I'm just going to presume, 2/3 does not vote to vote on this. What happens, right? What I'm hearing from the report and the recommendation from the committee is that decision, which was made by committee to have it, was also made by committee to not have it.
Well, actually, let me weigh in on that.
Or a recommendation to not have it. So procedurally, without a vote, what happens?
And I'll just interject that we did not take any kind of vote around the festival at any point. It's just part of what was our expected calendar. And we did discuss the event at our last meeting at the beginning of the month with the assumption that it was going to carry on. We didn't take any kind of vote around it. And we certainly haven't taken a vote around whether to cancel it. Because there's a big difference between what was going on at the beginning of the month and what is going on now in terms of COVID numbers. And really this conversation started taking serious root today between me and staff. So I have not had a chance to hear from the other committee members even.
So again, when we started to plan for this event, the outlook was very different to what we've seen in the last week, where numbers have grown exponentially. I have serious concerns. I mean, I think I have all the confidence in the world in the staff of the rec department and their efforts at putting together an event that could be done safely. However, unless we actively enforce, mask wearing and people social distancing, there's really no way to control a potential event where people get exposed. So it's very hard. It's hard to anticipate how many people will attend. We have made an intentional effort at not advertising it outside of the community, only advertisements in the local paper. However, I think this morning it was advertised by the news media. So we don't know if ultimately only a handful of people will show up and it's completely manageable, or if people just look for an excuse to go out and gather, and then we have a situation that it's too late to address at that point. We have staff members that, some that are in the high risk category that have expressed concerns about, maybe working the event in the situation that it does, become out of control or maybe more than expected. So I have to respond to that as well. So my recommendation is I recognize that this is an event that, benefits the business community. And unfortunately, they've been hit hard during this pandemic. But, I think that at the end of the day, we've learned, if there's something that we've learned in 2020 is the need to pivot at the end. Even though we've planned with, hopefully a better outcome in the end. But if the trend continues the way that we have seen in the past 2 weeks, then we're going to be in a worse situation by the time that this event is expected to be held. And there's a lot of resources that go into serving for this event. It's not only the rec staff, it's also our police officers and our fire department who responds to call for that. So just thinking about all of that, sort of my recommendation is that we postpone it and maybe plan for a bigger event, maybe a spring event if things look better in the spring, where we can really safely celebrate with the community at that point.
Right. And I would say that when Desiree and I had this discussion earlier today, the piece about our employees also being potentially at risk really swayed my thinking on this.
Anyone else? Okay. Anything else in your report, Susan?
Oh, yes, sorry. And we did talk about some other things, including surfing instruction, and later in our agenda, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought somebody said something. Later in our agenda, we have recommended ordinance changes to our commercial activities restrictions to allow for limited surfing instruction for people with a valid city business license. And I'll just give a little bit of history and walk back for a second here. This is an issue that has been around for several years now that we've been trying to resolve and find a way, because of the high interest of especially families on the island in providing surfing, being able for their children to receive surfing instruction on Isle of Palms. Many find that they have to go to Folly Beach to get that instruction, which is, kind of shouldn't be that hard. So we've been looking at this a variety of different ways. It is more complicated when you dig into it than it seems like it should be. What we have in the past looked at included doing a franchise arrangement, which would make it the first franchise arrangement between the city and a business in regard to, well, I guess anything, but in terms of beach activities. So we looked at that. There's some challenges that come with that. And we actually did some RFPs, but weren't satisfied with the results. We also more recently, I think we've reported to you that we were looking at our recreation department, trying to do it through our recreation department. But that also makes for some challenges. The instructor would have to become an employee of the city, and we would be taking on, like with the franchise arrangement, the city would be taking on added liability, and a variety of scheduling issues would be difficult, and especially with the nature of surfing and trying to schedule lessons at the best times in the calendar based, in terms of the variables of weather and that kind of thing would be difficult. So this is our what we think is probably our best option for allowing for surfing instruction, keeping it simple, so that the city is not tied to any instructors or businesses in a partnership kind of way, and allowing flexibility, but at the same time, trying to make it as invisible as possible by restricting the number of hours that instructors can be out on the beach on a daily basis, requiring them that they have a business license, and restricting the number of students at a time to groups of 4 students or less. And we might also look at a couple of other things around safety requirements at our next committee meeting before second reading.
Susan, we've got a, first reading by title only tonight with some discussion. So we'll probably get into more detail with Douglas a little bit later on.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And that's really the highlights of my report. We'll be meeting again in January.
Great report. Any questions from Susan? Councilmember Ward?
I do not have a clear and definitive answer on the street festival. It sounds like it's been like a management decision. I think we owe it to the citizens and to the business community an answer, an up or down on this.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes. In the past, it's never had a motion that has never had to been made. It's come out of committee to continue with a street festival. The motion would be to continue with the street festival.
Do we have a second?
So we need a motion.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
I was gonna, I think, say what Desiree was gonna say. I think the motion has to be to add consideration of the Holiday Street Festival to the agenda.
Correct.
Pardon me, that is correct. That's the motion.
Councilmember Ward's making that motion, okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. I'll add
This is a 2/3 majority, right?
Yes, sir.
Correct, thank you.
Add it to the agenda. Yes, you need
Yes.
to do that.
Right.
Just real quickly for my 2 cents worth, I am afraid of it becoming a super spreader event in this day and age of the COVID and what we see going on across the nation. So it scares me. But anyone else? Councilmember Streeton, and then
Yeah, can we just clear up and rephrase, or not rephrase, but talk about how that motion will read here?
The motion is to add it to the agenda for the meeting right this minute for consideration as to whether or not you're going to have it.
Correct.
Okay.
So you're adding the ability to vote yay or nay on the event. So you need a 2/3 vote to add it to the agenda, which is the
Councilmember Moore.
motion that's on the table.
Thank you, Mayor. My 2 cents that as everyone has said, we're in a really dangerous place as a country and as a community. In terms of what we do here, I don't see that we really have much of a choice personally. I will echo at least what Councilmember Ward said in terms of clarity coming out of here. So I would say, irrespective of what happens with this specific motion to put it on the agenda, if staff could provide a clear direction, this is a staff level decision at this point, barring a change from this vote. So at least coming out of this meeting, our community knows exactly what to expect with the Holiday Street Festival, because I think that is part of what Councilmember Ward is stating, and I think he's exactly right, that we need clarity of what's going to happen.
Councilmember Pounds.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and John, I would agree. This is a staff level decision. There's no way council should be weighing in on this. And you heard from the committee and from our city administrator a recommendation to not have this. So I think we need to, we can vote accordingly on if we will even want to add it to the agenda to have a conversation, but I feel like we're overstepping our bounds here and over the staff.
Councilmember Popson.
Yeah, just thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be clear, we did not, as Chairman Smith said, we did not have an up or down vote on the committee level on this festival or not. So we didn't make any kind of decision out of committee. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, this is a vote to whether we're going to add it on for a vote to vote yet up or down to put it on our agenda. Nicole?
Councilmember Streetman,
Nay.
Councilmember Bell,
Nay.
Councilmember Ward,
Yay.
that aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Moy,
Nay.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Nay.
Councilmember Pounds,
Nay.
Councilmember Buchanan,
I just got signed back in, so aye, yes.
Mayor Carroll.
Nay.
Okay, the motion fails.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
Excuse me. Thank you, council, for considering that.
You're welcome.
Everyone.
Susan, anything else in your report?
No, I think I've wrapped it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on. Personnel.
All right. The personnel committee personnel committee met last week, Thursday, November the 12th. We had a few big topics. We got an update on the RFP process for the wage and compensation study. We only had about 400 pages of RFPs to review, so pretty light reading for staff and council. That being the case, there was still some due diligence that staff was undertaking to shortlist and make recommendations to committee. So we don't have anything to present except that we were encouraged by the amount of bids and the thoroughness and the quality of what we got. So staff is going to do some further due diligence and contact some of the folks that bid and come back to us with recommendations at our next meeting, which we will have in December. We got an update on the hiring process for the fire chief. Application deadline ended yesterday, and I know we received a lot of interest, which both from internal applicants, which is fantastic, as well as externally validated our assumption that we probably didn't need to hire a recruiting firm. So we feel pretty good about saving that chunk of change that we've previously allocated. The timeline's in your packet for that hiring. We're on pace right now. The staff will begin their screening of candidates in the couple weeks to come with both the standardized assessment and phone screens leading up to some interviews. So we're on pace. We hope to have a recommendation early January for council to consider. Moving on, we did discuss the appointments to boards and commissions. We have vacancies on BOZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Accommodations Tax, and the Planning Commission. We are, as a committee, working through those appointments, and we'll make recommendations to city council at the special city council meeting in December. We are meeting at a date to be determined for a special personnel committee meeting to interview candidates and deliberate on some of those outstanding items. So no major considerations for council tonight, just updates on things that are progressing and moving along as smoothly as we could hope for. We meet again on a date TBD
Any
before
questions?
December 8th.
Hearing none, moving on. Real property.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been kicked off a couple times this internet, so I can't wait till we all get back in chambers again here soon. I'm trying to run my video. There it goes. Real Property Committee met Wednesday, November 4th. All committee members were present, including the administration. Under old business, we had to update on the marina rehabilitation project. It had a pre-construction meeting with the stakeholders down there, and that turned out to be very productive. As mentioned earlier, there was some progress today where they showed up to start working on the bulkhead. We also had a design for the fuel hut that's been submitted to the building department's office for review and approval. And we have submitted a request to the contractors to Salmon's dredging on a couple of items for potential change orders to consider, and we'll discuss that later. We also had an update on the ADA compliant walkover at 42nd Avenue. The council will need to approve the new project as the scope of the work has changed. Once council approves the changes, the staff will submit the application to the Greenbelt program for approval of the project and using the same amount of money that was previously allocated to the city. I'd like to go ahead and make that in the form of motion at this time.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
And just for discussion, basically what we've done is we've took an elevated pathway and made it more user-friendly, a ground level pathway. There's not as much work inside in the dune lines and so basically it's just replacing the blue mat with the ADA compliant vehicle tolerable walkway. And so at a less expensive price than what a dune walkover would have been.
Any questions?
Desiree?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, during this process, and I know that I think the Real Property has been discussing this for the past three or four meetings. So we've had a lot of discussion about this. We also had a meeting with the residents of 42nd Avenue and in the area, just explaining the project and what that would look like. And the residents there expressed some concerns about adding an elevated boardwalk to the existing path there, concerns about increased traffic, concerns about having to remove some vegetation as part of the construction process for the elevated boardwalk. So the committee instructed us to look at other options that could be incorporated to the existing path. And in your packets, and I don't know if Ron can pull it up so we can see some of if that's necessary, but in your packet, it's some pictures of what the material would look like. And it's drivable, it's solid, and will not bulge above of the sand like we see with the matting. We currently have, as part of our contract with our landscaper, to constantly and regularly blow off some of the sand that collects on top of these mats. So they would continue to do that work. The cost for this would be approximately $75,000, including installation and a 15% contingency. And if approved, if changing the scope for this project is approved by the full body, we would be submitting a letter to the Greenbelt Program Fund so that we could use the funds that were awarded to the city for the elevated boardwalk, which was $100,000. If we could use those funds for this. I mean, it's the same concept, providing and enhancing access to the beach to folks with ADA disabilities. So we feel confident after talking with their staff that would be approved by the board. But that would be just another step that we'd have to get approval from them.
Councilmember Randy?
Yeah, just Ryan, quick comment as well. Those blue mats are pretty expensive and replaced, probably way too often. And Desiree, I don't recall the useful life on this, but it's pretty long term. I mean, it eliminates the need for that constant replacement of those blue mats as well.
I don't know the answer to that question, but Douglas is on the line. Douglas, are you there? Do you have any info on the useful
I am
life of-
here. I would agree, just kind of at my gut, that this will last longer. I don't have any, warranty data or anything like that to share, but I would agree it should be a much harder wearing surface than the Moby mat.
Correct, and a much wider mat as well. So basically at 42nd Avenue, right now it's 6 feet wide. At 9th Avenue and 31A, those mats are 4 feet wide. So this will make it accessible by truck and folks who need to pass each other on the mat as well. So yes, at a cheaper price.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. And to move on that, I mean, that's 42nd Avenue, but the committee has also been looking at improving beach access paths, at a number of areas between 21st and 41st with the installation of footbridges. Basically because with the increased amount of flooding and high tides and everything, it's just, the area is just inundated with water. And so we've had some discussion about previous award monies that would be used from, and that'd be unused from this walkover project, and tying that into a future Greenbelt fund for the improvements of the beach accesses between 21st and 41st. We're trying to identify those beach accesses with the help of Director Pitts and Assistant Director Acero from the Public Works Department. And they worked and completed an inventory of the beach access paths and identified those that are most in need, like 28th, 29th, 32nd, 34th, 37th, 36th, 39th, 45th, and 50th. So there's a number of access paths that we can start to tackle and try to make the access to the beach more accessible. And that will be an ongoing project, and we'll continue to work on that. We also had discussion and conceptual designs of a proposed public dock and green space at the marina. The administrator and Director Carr met with the island resident, Kelly Messier, who does a wonderful job out here with landscape architecture, to meet and discuss plans for the city's space at the marina. And she put together a conceptual plan, and she provided it pro bono to the city. And it was reviewed with the committee members and real property. Design has also been shared with the marina manager and other stakeholders at the marina and the ILP Families Group, who were also in favor of the concept. But basically what it does is develop a plan where it creates a walking path around the perimeter of the property to try to get walking traffic out of the driving area and or out of the vehicular traffic area. So that's something we're continuing to work with the other entities down there, and we'll continue to move forward with this, not only with the green space area of the entire marina. And both the Families Group have reached out to me, and they're excited about it as well. And so it's something we'll continue to work with, and I think something's getting ready to pop up here. Yep. But like I said, with any new project, it's going to take a little bit of time and community input, and that's one of the things that we're looking for is community input based on the sketches and designs and what we have going on. That would really wrapped up our meeting, and our next meeting is TBD in January.
Okay, discussions for real property.
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, yes, sir. Councilmember Ward.
Drawing looks real nice. I didn't see any parking. Will there be parking available for citizens and visitors, free parking?
And that's one of the things we talked about, Councilman Ward, is within the drawings, I think you saw an area, green space, a promenade, perhaps that kind of walked up that way. And really and throughout the discussion is trying to eliminate or decrease the amount of, I am going to go to here, anecdote, just a second here, draw here. So you have this promenade here. And basically what we want to do is really go through and try to keep the traffic, the pedestrian traffic around the perimeter of the property and not within the vehicular traffic. And this kind of dumps it out into the vehicular traffic. So this definitely could become, those spaces could become residential parking areas as well. And just kind of create an area here that would be more green space that comes all the way around through here. And that would really make everybody happy, I think.
Yeah.
Ron, if I'm not mistaken, Ron is going to be has this online, and he also has an online, suggestion box. So people can go in there and look at our projects, can see this conceptual drawing and start adding in. Instead of having a separate committee, we can have resident involvement by going to IOP.net and look at our projects.
And like I said, this was the first time this has been brought up, and Kelly Messier has done a great job working with it. And we'll go through and massage this, try to get community input, and try to find ways to make this even better. And working with the stakeholders down there at the marina, and try to find ways to make the make it what everybody wants down there.
Desiree, you spoke to all stakeholders down there, and everybody's excited about this?
Yeah, well, before Kelly put together the drawing, we did meet with both the marina manager, and at that time we hadn't executed the lease with the restaurant folks. And conceptually, there was an agreement with it. We have since then met and discussed the actual plan with the new restaurant tenants, and they have plans, and I believe they've already hired Kelly to help her tie it into part of their whole landscaping plan and tie that walkway with their outdoor seating area in front of the water. So we actually had a meeting with them earlier today to walk through the site, and they're very supportive of it. They've talked about having and hosting fundraising events at that site to raise money for the construction and implementations. I'm really excited to hear that. Douglas and I did meet with the marina manager, and we talked about what that would look like and some of the adjustments that would need to be made to an area that he manages related to the parking. But we have not yet had the opportunity to sit down with the marina manager since the drawing has been developed. But we're planning on doing that next.
Very good. Thank you very much. And Ron, thanks for putting that online on our projects. Okay, anything else for Ryan? Hearing none, moving on. Reports from city officers, boards, commissions. Accommodations Tax Advisory, no meeting. Planning, Zoning Appeals, no meeting. Planning Commission, minutes are attached. Reports from special or joint committees, none. Petitions received, referred, disposed of, none. Bills already in possession. Number 8A, discussion of ordinance 2020-10, an ordinance to an amendment to 5-432 of the city's zoning code to allow sewer pump stations in the SR1 family residential district. Douglas, you're on board. I'm going to let you kind of jump in here and kind of give us a little more details.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So this ordinance you all considered last month for first reading. You referred it back to the Planning Commission, and they had a special meeting a couple of weeks ago to look at it a little closer. And the way that it had previously been presented, basically the code established a minimum size of a footprint of 1,000 square feet. And the way it would have worked is if the proposed lift station had a footprint of 1,000 square feet or less, it would have been approved at a staff level. The planning commission looked at that and they felt like it would be prudent to do two things. Basically, first was to shift it from a staff level approval to a special exception to be granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals. So that's the first important kind of change. The second change is they created a series of criteria under which the Board of Zoning Appeals would need to consider those requests. And there are 8 of them that were distributed to you this afternoon, I think. And to just go through them quickly, they are still the 1,000 square feet. Next thing is odor control. They must be fitted with an odor control device. Third is that it be screened with a fence. Fourth is that it be screened, the fence also be screened with a vegetative buffer. Fifth is that the lighting be shielded from residents and only switched on when it's being used. Sixth is keeping all power, backup power generators off-site to avoid the noisy cycling that those would have. Seventh was to establish a maximum height of the equipment. And eighth is just a generic kind of catch-all provision that the board should consider. And it just deals with protecting adjacent properties from adverse impacts of noise, vibration, dust, glare, and other factors. So that recommendation will be coming to you for your consideration, along with a public hearing scheduled for December. I think it's 8th. But that will be coming up. So I don't think there's a reason for any action tonight. It's just an update to let you know where we are and let you know that a public hearing and consideration will be coming up.
Okay, any questions for Douglas on this? Councilmember Pounds.
Yeah. Hey, Douglas, I think that was really good work by the Planning Commission with your leadership and collaboration with the water and sewer guys. I think this is a good spot to get to personally.
Anyone? Councilmember Moy.
Yeah, I certainly echo that. I was really encouraged to see what was put together. Procedurally with this, in terms of handing this to BOZA instead of at the staff level, is our action just to vote this down, or is that an amendment to the existing ordinance with the 1,000 square feet, or we still need to pass that?
I don't
So
think
I would say, yeah, you would pass this at second reading in December as an amendment.
I don't think we're having a second meeting in December except for
there's a special meeting early in December that this could be included. You know, we can include this on that agenda. We have to have a public hearing, and that has to be advertised at least 15 days before public hearing. So we're on track to have that done on the 8th.
Councilmember Smith.
I believe that the Water and Sewer Commission, there is an urgency to getting this passed, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of a specific case where they need to purchase land.
If you don't mind me chiming in, you know, I have no problem with having a special exemption for a parcel of land at 7th and Palm. But I do have some problems with, you know, just a blanket rezoning where pump stations can be put basically in a general area around the island. But I do realize that they have a time limitation on that triangle piece of land down at 7th and Palm. That's my concern. Anyone else? Okay.
I guess just for clarity, in terms of procedurally, you know, if these recommendations are approved, BOZA would be looking at the list of criteria that have been included and approving that on a case-by-case basis. It would not automatically allow these pump stations to be constructed on the island. It would be approved on a, base,
Case by case.
yes, case by case basis through BOZA.
That makes me feel much better because I know that the water and sewer did go around the 7th and Palm area to talk to everyone. Councilmember Bell.
Yeah, so regards that, and I would echo the mayor's comments as well as to the triangle piece of property. But this was fairly large zones of areas that water and sewer was considering over, a time horizon of 5 years. The question is, if we're approving on a case-by-case basis, do we need a change in the city's zoning ordinance that's more broad-based? Or, there's not a second one. To the mayor's point, I don't think anyone's aware of a second location within the next X amount of years. Do we have to change the zoning on a broad basis, which really gives the decision authority to water and sewer and BOZA? Or would we, are we able to, when the next case comes up, there's a consideration, and residents in that area rightfully have a way to weigh in both with BOZA and with council?
I don't think, if this amendment is approved, then council would not be involved in the decision making on, where this would go. It would be done. It would be submitted to BOZA as a request for an exception.
So Desiree, assume this fails and the water and sewer has the second site that they would like to deal with. The process would be to come before council, I think, and ask for an exception to that, or perhaps through BOZA and back to council, right? I mean, there's a vehicle to get it done that's not a broad-based ordinance change, I would think.
So if I could just step in, the way in which zoning law is handled by every city in the state of South Carolina is a uniform process established by the state legislature that really, it is a pretty set method in which cities have to do this. So there is not really a tool that I think allows you to kind of do what you're getting at, which would be for council to approve just one, because it starts politicizing, individual sites, which the state legislature doesn't want you to do. So it is specifically set up. You have things called conditional use permits, which is basically the same thing, but approved at a staff level. You have a blanket rezoning, which is, and then you have this third kind of middle ground, which is a special exception by the Board of Zoning Appeals. But you are fairly limited in the tools that you can use when you're dealing with these zoning issues like this. So I don't know that there is a more tailored method to do it than what we're proposing you use here tonight.
Thank you, Douglas.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And I think what it comes down to is that we don't have the ability to spot zone areas, and that's what the state legislature is going to do. And I think really falls on us if we know we need to work towards sewering the island. That falls on us to, fill these BOZA positions with the folks that we feel are going to make the best decisions for the island.
Council member, anyone else? Hearing none. Do I hear a motion for this consideration?
We don't.
There's no motion. It was just for discussion.
All right. Discussion. All right. Moving on. Consideration of ordinance 20-2015, an ordinance to adopt the most recent flood insurance maps, create standards for new flood zones, and update existing language as required by SCDNR. Douglas, I'm going to let you take that over again.
Mayor, just point of order.
Out of order.
Yeah, we're on item 8B, ordinance to amend the alarm ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just jumped right in there. It's called eyeballs. Consideration ordinance 2020-15, an ordinance to adopt the most, why is it different?
You have 2020-11, alarm ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
8B, Mayor.
I am looking at the wrong one. I apologize. The alarm ordinance to be rewritten. Do I hear, this is by title only?
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
Ordinance 2020-11.
And this is a motion to approve second reading, so upon passage.
Thank you very much. Ordinance, alarm ordinance. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none. This is by title only.
No,
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not.
Second reading, yes.
Second
So
reading.
it'll be ratified upon approval.
I jumped down to the whole nother layer below there. Okay, Nicole?
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you. Yeah, I dropped from 8 to 9, so I apologize on that. Now let's go back to 9. Introduction of new bills, resolutions, proclamations. Consideration of ordinance 2020-14, an ordinance to allow commercial surfing instruction on the beach. This is by title only with discussion. Douglas.
Motion to approve with
Motion.
discussion.
Second.
All right, Douglas, do you want to fill us in a little bit more detail on this? Susan did a good job giving us some background. I appreciate that.
Actually, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to say a little bit about this.
Yes,
I worked with Douglas and the police chief and Norma Jean to put together some changes to the ordinance that could assist us with providing surf instruction to residents and citizens based on sort of a method that would reduce the liability on the city. As Councilwoman Smith said previously, we've tried a number of different avenues for arriving at surf lessons, and this is just the latest road that we're looking at going down. So there are some changes from the version that's in your packet that were discussed in committee, and the first one is item B, where it says surf instruction shall be limited to groups of 4 or fewer. That should say 4 or fewer students and 1 instructor. And secondly, item C should say instruction shall not exceed more than 2 hours per day per business license. And that's again to kind of just cut down on overcrowding on the beach and try and ensure that this is as unobtrusive as possible and doesn't over commercialize things.
well explained. Any questions? Councilmember Moy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, I'll try not to repeat too much of what Councilmember Smith said earlier, because I think she did a good job of capturing it, and certainly Assistant City Administrator Hannah as well. I think that that we absolutely owe it to our residents to pass this. This has been, as long as I've been on council and even prior, I know from talking to other council members as well as residents, it's frankly absurd that our children have to drive to Folly Beach to get lessons for surfing. And I think that the city staff, they've been working with us on council trying to find a way that works. And I won't rehash everything that Councilmember Smith went through, but I think where we are now is maybe the best in terms of protecting from the concerns that I've heard expressed in the past. And I think why this works so well is city staff looked at what's already working with commercial licenses in photography and said, how can we replicate an example that works where there has not been a Pandora's box open, where there hasn't been this large ripple effect of people trying to do commercial activity that the city is powerless to stop because frankly, we do have control of the commercial activity that happens on our beach. The other thing that I don't think was necessarily mentioned previously is that this is a limited time ordinance that was set to expire after 1 year. So it's essentially a pilot. So any concerns about a Pandora's box, frankly, the council has to take action for this to become a permanent ordinance, even if we enact it now. And so I would urge you to, consider this as an opportunity for us to provide a service that our residents have long asked for. There is a huge outcry of families and children that are longing to learn how to surf that are spending hours in the car each summer going to Folly Beach when they've got the beach right here at our fingertips. And it's working for photography. There's no reason we can't have the same policy work as well for surfing.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Councilmember Pounds, and then
Thank you. And John, I'm 100% behind this and totally agree that we can try it for a year, see what happens and tweak as needed. But I guess, I don't know what the timing is for any amendments to come to this. For example, there's no certifications, CPR or anything. There's no insurance requirements, indemnifying the city, background check. I mean, is that possibly coming in an amendment before a second reading, or are we that far down the road yet? I guess that's to Susan, maybe.
Susan.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. And those are good questions that I believe we'll be discussing at our next Recreation Committee meeting.
Okay, so there's time for amendments before we'll go to.
Right.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
So this is first reading, and yeah, we have a moment when we can look at this. And if there are any other concerns that anybody wants to bring up, please feel free to share them. And I think that's a good point. We can see what we can do around that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Moore, before we go to you, I think Desiree had her hand up, then to you. Desiree.
I will give my spot to Councilmember Moy.
Okay.
Well, I'll stay on topic with the question from Councilmember Pounds. A city administrator, Hannah, provided us in committee a really nice layout of kind of the pros and cons of the different approaches that city has considered. This approach is the most hands-off approach that exists. So that is worth noting, whereas the rec center, having that on staff obviously is the most hands-on. The franchise was sort of the middle ground. And looking at what we thought was most important to the community and to this council, the perception or the perspective we took was that the more invisible, the less this service stands out, the better. And that means the more hands-off approach. So I'm not sure exactly what, to your exact points, I don't have answers to all of those questions, but as a general feeling, this is the most hands-off approach that we could take. You think about photography, I don't think there's any, requirements that we do. I understand there's a very big gap in terms of safety. So I know it's apples and oranges, but.
Councilmember Smith and then Desiree.
Yeah, I think that water safety, maybe some kind of water safety certification would be the main thing that we'll be discussing in committee, and whether that's a viable possibility. That's something that we were hearing some questions about recently from the community. And so we're going to look at that more closely. And that's one of the things. But I'll point out that just allowing and opening this door for surfing instruction really is partly based in a desire for safety and for people to get some kind of instruction to help them. That should be a component that I would expect as a parent for surfing instruction and a motivation for doing it. So I think that is a great reason for us to move in this direction. Yeah, thank you.
Desiree?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the Councilmember Pound's question. It was intentional in that what's being proposed is a very hands-off approach and treating it like the city treats any other business on the island, right? The more control and the more criteria or requirements that the city requires of these vendors, the more liability and the more responsibility the city will have in making sure that those certifications are legitimate, making sure that, that they do have all these requirements that we're asking about. The same way that we don't, monitor a roofing company, making sure that they are legit when you contract them. It's sort of that due diligence that the person receiving the service would be responsible to do. So I think it just, we went through, having a lot of control and having a lot of concerns about the liability and how involved the city staff would have to be in making sure that those are met. And sort of the hands-off approach where there's less or no liability to the city, and sort of puts the onus on the customer, if you will, in making that determination. So I know that Susan had some questions, and I'm sure the committee will talk more about it, but it was sort of by design presented this way.
Okay, anyone else? Councilmember Popson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In committee, I brought up just a couple of things. One is my concern was we open up the door to commercializing the beach. And yes, we allow photographers to go out there, but that's not the photographer's office. They go out there and photograph weddings or family events or whatever. But the surfer, that'll be his office. So I think there's a little bit of difference there. My other concern at the committee level was enforcement. How are we going to be out there, checking on 4 or less students in 2 hours per day? So that's my only couple concerns on how we're going to monitor this. Listen, I'm not against surfing. My son grew up surfing on this island, and if he got any moment in his daily routine, he'd be out there surfing. So I'm all about surfing. I just don't know whether this is, and we've looked at different ways, Norma Jean and everybody, but so I don't know whether this is the answer or not, but those are my concerns. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Again, this is first reading by Councilmember Buchanan.
I've been out here long enough. We have looked into a lot of different ways to do this, and every single one of them has not worked out so far. We need to find something different that it will work. And I agree with you, Kevin, that I'd hate to commercialize the business, the beaches. I don't see it as this is their office. I see it as a place where they'll meet up. It's not like they can be out there soliciting business. They'll meet up ahead of time and then go on down there. So we need to find something. Like I said, it has a sunset provision to it. We have a year. We'll see how it works, and we'll go from there. But the other routes that we've tried have not worked or have not worked well. And there's, with a growing amount of families out here in the island, and we need to try something a little bit different.
Mayor, call for a vote?
Yes, Councilman Popson, then vote.
No, I just agree with Ryan. We've tried everything, and it's a pilot program. And I didn't mean office. I mean, just that's the place where they're going to work. But anyway, I'm actually ready to support it.
Okay, Nicole.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you very much. Item B, consideration of ordinance 2020-15 and ordinance to adopt the most recent flood insurance rate maps, create standards for new flood zones, and update language as required by SCDNR. And again, I'm going to have Douglas kind of jump in here and just give us a brief overview.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to go ahead and make a motion to approve 2020-15 for the
Second. It's required. I don't know why you need a whole lot of the explanation.
I'll be quick.
But sometimes it's nice to have discussion in advance. Douglas?
I understand.
I will be quick. As it was said, this is a requirement to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, which we need to do. The ordinance really does 3 things that were mentioned. It adopts the new flood maps. On those flood maps, there are new zones that we've never had before called AO zones. So we had to create standards for those zones. And also as part of this process, the DNR reviews our ordinance, and they review every ordinance in the state to keep them consistent throughout the state. So they had some minor tweaks in the language of our existing code that's also being handled with this amendment. So that's really it. These flood maps have been a long time coming, and they will be effective January 29th, 2021.
We lost the mayor.
Sure did.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, moving on.
You want me to call for a vote first? I gotta
Kevin Popson.
Oh, yeah.
do roll call.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Kevin Popson has a question.
Kevin's got a question.
Douglas, I just want to, for the residents, are the maps somewhere they can see, the residents can see the new maps?
There is a link on the city's website. It does seem as though it's a little bit buried, if my memory serves me correctly, but we could probably put those fairly prominently. But yes, they are on the city's website. I think they'd have to dig a little bit to find them at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nicole, let's call for the vote, please. Do you have a question, Susan?
I was just going to encourage getting that word out there. This is a significant change, and the city could do some more on social media to also point people to it.
Very good. Any other discussion? There being none that I hear, call for the vote. Nicole?
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ward,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you. Item 9C, consideration of emergency ordinance 2020-14, the ordinance to extend the state of emergency, modify beach parking restrictions, and extend other emergency provisions due to COVID-19. If I remember correctly, last week, and Councilmember Bell suggested we move this item to this week's agenda. Have your concerns been met, sir?
Yep.
Or did you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, I would like to ask the administrator, how long is the extension for?
If approved tonight, it would be, it would go into effect upon the ratification, and it would be valid for 60 days.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Desiree, I think we need to walk through what the changes are, what we're proposing personally, just to make
Yes.
sure we're all on the same page.
Absolutely.
Point of order. Sorry. Do we need to make a motion to approve this?
Yeah,
I'll make a. Sorry.
absolutely.
I'll make a motion to approve the emergency ordinance.
Yeah, I'll second that. Okay, Desiree.
Okay. So the changes that are included on the agenda in the draft emergency ordinance 2020-14 include extending the face mask requirement for indoor restaurants and retail. And so that would be extended for 60 more days. I'm adding, give me 1 second, I'm adding the mayor to the meeting. All right.
Desiree, for my clarification, I just want to understand, because the first one, or the one that's currently in place, ends on December 13th. Are you saying ratification of this extends from December 14th forward, or from now?
So it would be extending it from today, because it has some changes to the emergency ordinance that's in place right now that would expire on the 13th.
Okay.
So this one, the goal would be to make some of the requirements that currently we have on restaurants and retail consistent to the governor's emergency order. So those would go into effect today. Everything else would stay the same. The other significant difference is the current beach parking restrictions. Back in the summer when council considered parking restrictions, temporary parking restrictions due to COVID, the main concern was trying to address crowding on the beach. And we no longer have that problem due to the weather and due to the fact that we're approaching winter. So there is, from a staff's perspective, not a need to maintain those parking restrictions. Obviously, when we go, get back to the next spring and summer, it is still a consideration and an issue. Then we would be recommending council to consider putting these restrictions in place again. So that's really the main significant difference, other than extending some of the other emergency provisions related to face masks, allowing council to continue to maintain virtual meetings. Also would authorize the city administrator to cancel or revoke any special permits through the timing of the emergency ordinance, but everything else would stay the same, as well as extending the state of emergency.
Desiree, just a comment. I mean, this remains open to our consideration as long as the governor's emergency orders remain in place. So
correct.
In terms of the dates, it's very fluid because he could lift them, he could continue to extend them, and we continue to have the ability to take action under those directives.
That is correct.
Okay, is the mayor back?
The mayor is back. I'm sorry about that. My computer just died on me when I unplugged it in the other room. So I had to run to another room and plug it in. So the way I understand it is the emergency orders expire on the 13th. We are extending everything for 60 days except for parking on the non-ocean side of Palm, just because we don't have the crowding on the beaches as Desiree was describing. But everything else remains intact. Is that correct, Desiree?
Yes, sir, that is correct. There is a change on item 9, which requires restaurants and businesses to comply with the governor's emergency order. So that way we're not playing catch up when the governor makes any changes. It would just have a blanket statement that they have to comply to those orders.
Councilmember Pounds and then Councilmember Streetman.
Yeah, Mayor, just to be clear, Desiree, we're not extending from December 13th. We're effective today for 60 days.
That is correct, if approved.
Thank you.
And that would expire on the 17th of January,
Yep.
I think.
Thank you.
Councilmember Streetman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do the parking, lifting the parking restrictions also apply to the finger streets also, right?
Correct.
All parking's open.
All parking is open as it was before.
Mhm.
As our original parking plan described, yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have.
Yes, sir.
I can't remember if there was already been made a motion on this already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because I'd like to go ahead and make an amendment to this motion to allow the restaurants to continue to have outdoor service, because right now it has expired. And we do have some restaurants that will continue to, right now they're in violation of city ordinance. And if we can continue to allow them to have what they can with going through the winter, allow them to have outdoor seating and outdoor service, because right now our city ordinance does not allow it. Allow them to have that in throughout the additional 60 days of this emergency ordinance.
I'll
Second that.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion for that amendment?
Good call, Ryan.
Nicole for the amendment.
Absolutely. Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan.
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor of the amendment.
Back to the original motion, which is to extend the orders for 60 days from today, and opening up parking on the second row of Palm Boulevard and the avenues. Nicole?
Councilmember,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, there was disruption in the audio there. Who was that?
Councilmember Smith has her hand up.
Oh,
I just wanted to point out that parking is currently free at Front Beach because it's off season. So since that was something that was originally part of the ordinance changes to allow for, just parking free all day.
Councilmember Streetman,
aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy, Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you very much.
I'm in favor too.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And you were running the meeting for me, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's getting to be a pattern here.
Everybody's moving. Everybody's squares are moving. It's throwing me off.
I know. And plus I'm moving offices nowadays. Okay, miscellaneous business. I had this put on there. Discussion and consideration of renaming the public safety building at 30 J.C. Long Boulevard to be named the Chief Ann Graham Public Safety Building. Discussion. Councilmember Ward.
How long did Thomas Buchanan work for the city and how long was he chief?
Tommy, I think was on 38 years, if I'm not mistaken.
On Isle of Palms Police Department.
Yes, sir. Any other discussion?
I'd like to make an amendment.
Okay.
Consider renaming the public safety building to, I guess it's Chiefs Thomas. I think his name was C. Buchanan, whatever it is, and Ann N. Graham Public Safety Building.
We're gonna have to get a bigger sign.
Well, 38 years service.
It says a lot. It says a lot about the commitment to those chiefs. So no, I'll second that. I'll second that if that's a motion, Jimmy.
That's a motion. That's a second. Now we can have a discussion.
Not about the Chiefs, but just we'll figure that out later. But
Councilmember Bell.
Good idea.
Okay. Anyone else? Is there any way we can shorten that name today?
The Buchanan Graham Building.
Buck Graham.
Mick Graham.
Buck Graham.
Graham Cannon.
Listen, both of them have served our city for going on 4 decades, and they both were there from the very beginning. Had to live through what we have gone through, and I think that's a good motion.
And I think I think they went to prom together.
Okay. Any other discussion? Let's stop right there on that one. All right.
Yeah, we better shut up.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Nicole.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Emphatically aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor.
Thank you very much. Okay, nearing the end here. Our next meeting date, special
So
meeting.
I just want to make sure that was a point of order. Was that an amendment to the original motion?
The original motion actually never went on. There was never an original motion of naming it
Okay.
after Councilmember Graham. It was made as a motion by Councilmember Ward.
So,
All right. We're all good.
We're
How
good.
about
All
it?
right, thank you. All right, we have 3 meetings coming up. Special meeting 6 p.m. Tuesday, December 8th. Special meeting 6 p.m. Tuesday, January 5th, 21. And regular meeting council Tuesday, January 26th, 2021. All right. No executive session needed. And do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn. I'm muted.
Second.
Ron, you were late. Oh, thank you.
I saw
All those in favor.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank
our
y'all.
record is 7:50.
Bye, y'all.
Good night.